Dragonlance, Shadow of the Dragon Queen is a D&D adventure not actually set in the world of the Forgotten Realms or Faerun. This adventure is set in the world of Krynn, inspired by the Dragonlance book series. The entirety of the adventure is going to be taking place in the regions of Solamnia, the Northern Wastes, and a little bit of Eastwild. It is meant to take the characters from levels 1 to 11. Chapter 1 is your character creation. This adventure introduces the Kender race into play. These are people who look like humans but have a little bit of different features. So far, no player in any of my parties has decided to actually play this race, so here's all the features that come with it. I don't really know at what stage of the campaign these features become a key part to play in. Maybe when you're venturing further north, you'd be more accepted there. Also, you get an option to start with a free level 1 feat. All the more excuse for you to add a little bit more punch to your combats. Along with 2 backgrounds called Squire of Solamnia and Mage of High Society. Squire of Solamnia just amps your damage and attack rolls, with a feature called Precision Strike. And Mage of High Society gives you extra spells based on what type of mage you want to be. This can be based off of what kind of robes you want to wear. You can either be a black, white, or red-robed mage. Black signifying evil, white signifying good, and red signifying neutral alignments. Adventure Overview. The adventure contains 7 chapters. Here's a brief adventure flowchart. I'll be explaining each of these chapters individually. Character background. The main reason that the party is connected throughout this adventure is an untimely demise of a mutual friend they have. A world-renowned adventurer by the name of Ispin Greenshield has unfortunately perished, and a funeral is going to be held for him in the fishing town by the name of Vogler. Feel free to come up with why your characters may have a reason to know Ispin. There are some suggestions for this if your players are stuck and cannot come to a decision. They would all receive a letter from a certain knight in Vogler by the name of Becklin that bears this grim news, and the characters may choose to partner up to survive the wastes from whatever their hometown may be, in order to get to Vogler safely. Chapter 2 is called Prelude to War. Chapter 2 introduces some prefaces for what's to come. This is the part of the adventure where you slowly hint to your players, hey, something may be wrong here, and gives you 3 level 1 encounters for you to run while your players are traveling to Vogler. The preludes are called Broken Silence, Eye in the Sky, and Scales of War. The module states that only certain classes would have access to certain preludes, but for all you care, you can just do it on anybody. It's not that big of a deal. I usually always do just the Scales of War prelude, because it's pretty interactive and gets characters into some action immediately on session 1. I'll explain the other 2 preludes, but will continue with only the Scales of War in mind. If you want to skip the first 2 explanations, go to this timestamp. Broken Silence. This prelude focuses on characters who have been experiencing a recurring vision that comes to them in times of great turmoil or doubt. This vision might be a recent occurrence or something they've been experiencing for a long time. The vision describes a character standing in a forest clearing and hearing clashes of metal around, with a lot of dead bodies around him. There's a recurring artifact held by the sea soldier and always flashes once a character reaches for it. It's later found to be an amulet, and anytime the group wakes up on the way to Vogler and that vision happens, random shit just keeps disappearing and moving into a random clearing away from their camp. Nothing stolen, just moved. Once they touch a random amulet found in the moved belongings, they get another vision with a divine message from one of their gods, telling them to take the amulet and become the herald in the world. Once the vision stops, they aren't able to get it again. Eye in the Sky. This prelude is mainly for players wanting to go through the Mage of High Society test in a ruined tower called the Barb. They will have to go through multiple trials, like going through a maze, inspecting wall carvings, and having to use a golden key they found. Once the trial is complete, the character is handed a scroll and a spell book, and is directed to deliver these supplies to a black-robed mage by the name of Wyhan in Vogler. Pretty convenient. Scales of War. This is my go-to prelude when running this adventure, and it starts off with the characters journeying towards Vogler, where they will witness an aftermath of an attack from the dragon army encroaching on the lands. A scared villager will run to them, saying that he was essentially just a carriage driver giving some Knights of Solamnia transport, but then they got attacked by these black-cloaked figures. If the characters move to help, they will notice a fallen caravan with 5 figures looking over it. All of them wear the symbol of Takissus on their uniforms, and any religious character can determine that this is the evil Dragon Queen. You can decide for yourself if you want all or some of the Draconians to attack, while their commander slips out to meet his main army. Once this encounter is dealt with, they will find 3 Knights of Solamnia bodies on a fallen caravan. Here's the loot they can find from this encounter. I am not counting the loot you get from the dead bodies of the enemies. This encounter can go either way, so the module leaves the characters an out if you want to be merciful with your characters. appears, which has another group of travelers arriving and the Draconians leaving to not risk a bigger fight. I say nah to this. If they die, they die. So far, all of my playthroughs have been without a TPK. At the end of one or all of these preludes, the characters level up. Chapter 3 is called When Home Burns, and this has the characters arriving in Vogler. Two events are taking place during this: the annual Kingfisher Festival and putting a local hero to rest. Here's the entire map of Vogler. You're provided with a gazetteer to all the locations here. I've also made a brief text overview explaining all the locations. Feel free to pause and read the entire gist of them. The two main locations you're going to be interested in is Thornwall Keep and the Brass Crab. You may choose to hail the party with one character that takes up residence in Thornwall Keep, Becklin Oof Viharen. Becklin is a retired knight of Solamnia who serves as the town's ad hoc sheriff, and she was the one that sent all the invitations to the characters to attend the funeral. Once they meet up, they can get a tour of the entire town of Vogler before being directed to the Brass Crab. This is where the funeral procession is going to take place, and all the characters are comped room and board. That is, until the night when the actual funeral starts. The final farewell begins with the characters and the entire funeral procession posted up on the Brass Crab docks. Becklin is there along with some other notable characters: her squire by the name of Darrett Highwater, and Rhythmir Cudgel Ironsmile, who is the leader of a local mercenary encampment that is participating in a future event. There is also one mysterious elf called Lidara, who is secretly a ghost, but you can decide how you want the characters to be made aware of her. The party are encouraged to come up with stories they may have had with their dear friend Ispen. May they be funny, tragic, or even weird, this is all up to them. The main annoyance the players will have throughout the campaign is introduced in this funeral as well. A noble by the name of Bakaris the Younger is heckling this funeral. He is the son of the elder Lord Bakaris. Him and his father were chased out of their previous homes due to their streaks of violence, mischief, and murder, so they are laying low here and using their amassed wealth in order to boss the locals around. The characters can decide if and how they want to shut this character up, so they can continue having a peaceful funeral. And once the funeral winds down, they move on to the next day. In the morning, Becklin's squire Darrett wakes the characters up and offers them food, wanting to lead them back to Thornwall Keep to receive a parting gift from their late friend Ispen. Once they are led to the keep, Becklin will take a gift box out and offer to give them what is inside, if they abide by the last wish of their friend, taking part in the Kingfisher Festival, which commemorates the Solamnic Knights beating enemy forces in the battlefield of High Hill. The characters will get a green +1 shield if at least one of them agree to take part in this festival. The festival is in full swing once they receive the shield, and they can take part in the local fishing contest before the reenactment of the Battle of High Hill. So here's how the reenactment is meant to go. Members of the Vogler militia are meant to do a mock battle with padded weapons against the mercenary company of Cudgel Ironsmile by the name of the Ironclad Regiment. What nobody knows is Ironsmile's lieutenant, a half-Vogler named Gregonis, was actually paid to betray the Vogler militia. He was paid by the Dragon Army and used real weapons to cut down the defenseless militia. Once the Battle of High Hill begins, the characters can find this out early and prepare their actual weapons with a good perception check, where they will notice the shine on the enemy's weapons before the two forces clash. An interesting thing Dragonlance combat maps do is add the fray, which is basically simulating every other person fighting in the battle, and any character that leaves the main area will get hit as collateral damage from other people swinging their weapons. It also gives every battlefield events, which you can opt to use and spice up combats as they go. In total, the party will have to go through 7 mercenary guards and Gregonis himself in order to cause the enemy to rout. Once they get every wounded fighter to safety and reconvene with Mayor Vogler, Becklin, and Cudgel, they can rest up before being asked to interrogate a traitorous mercenary, be it Gregonis if the party opted to knock him out, or a random traitor mercenary. And now your characters are level 3. In the next day, as the triage tents are being set up for injured villagers and militia, the interrogation begins. The players are able to learn the following information from an interrogated prisoner. Basically, Gregonis had planned this from the start and was intent on taking over the Ironclad Regiment. Several days ago, Gregonis headed into the woods west of the mercenary camp and returned with a considerable amount of gold. And then he recruited all of his most loyal mercenaries to attack the Vogler militia. And everybody that wasn't paid off stayed at the camp, including JF, Cudgel's other lieutenant. The furious Cudgel then storms off to her mercenary camp in order to confirm this interrogation, claiming that this is something she must face alone if it turns into a trap. The next day, the characters will have an opportunity to scout out just how capable this dragon army is. With leads to their camp, they can head west into the woods from the Ironclad Regiment's camp to find that there is an entire army camp with thousands of troops waiting for orders, with a combination of draconic and human soldiers being present. This should count as a big oh shit moment for the players, with them realizing just how large this force is. Once they have completed their scouting mission, the party is able to make a report along with Cudgel. Once all the information is splayed out, the characters have the opportunity to determine ways of how to slow down the advance of the dragon army onto Vogler. And of course, it wouldn't be a Dragonlance meeting without the elder Lord Bakaris interrupting the meeting, insulted that no one invited him to give his input on the situation. This meeting is cut short by a mysterious visitor carrying a message in front of the river gate. This human soldier is dressed in black and red armor and demands to speak to whoever is in charge of the town. Regardless of whoever picks up the scroll bearing a message, they will read this scroll, telling the town to prepare to receive the Red Dragon army or perish if they refuse, ending the message off with, "This is the Dragon Queen's will." Ultimately, your characters will realize that the entire town is cut off and surrounded from every side other than the south, and they will be asked to find a way to get the villagers to safety and make an evacuation plan. They can accomplish this by doing the following tasks here. In the next morning, when the Dragon army is slated to attack, Cudgel shares the following information, basically stating that whatever is left of her company will meet the Red Dragon army in the field in order to either slow them down or bluff them off from attacking, and she takes Becklin to join her as another commander. Before departing, Becklin gives the characters a chest and asks them to give it to Darrett once they arrive onto the shores of Calaman. After a number of hours of waiting and getting ready, a messenger arrives from the front, bearing news that the Ironclad regiment has fallen, before getting themselves ambushed by a flying draconian creature. This messenger can be saved if your party is quick enough. The party will have to work with Darrett to delay the Red Dragon army as much as possible for the villagers to properly board all of the boats. Here are all the encounters that can happen. All of these require custom maps or theater of mind, but I'll leave some relevant links to maps in the comments below. The final battle they will have to pass in order to escape from Vogler is by the docks, where the Draconians are hauling a siege engine called a Boiler Drac to burn down the ships and buildings of Vogler. This is the closest you can ever get to a napalm thrower in D&D, and it's very fun to use, even though it does do a lot of damage to your players. Oh, and also, here's the battlefield events for this fight. After this siege team is defeated, the commander of this assault comes out of the brass crab, eating some stolen fish they've gotten from the inn's kitchen. Viewmaster Golcag and 2 Draconians are all that stands between the characters and freedom, and with good luck, the party can actually turn the flamethrower onto this second wave. As soon as the battle concludes, one last survivor from the battle joins the party on the boats. JF, Cudgel's lieutenant, bears grim news for the party. The battle ended poorly, and few of the regiment escaped. Becklin sent him to help everybody in the village safely evacuate and to ensure nobody waited for her and the mercenaries. And finally, more Dragon Army forces are right on his heels, and the villagers need to flee now. He also carries the helmet of Becklin as a show of proof that she sent him. The module actually lets you do a number of things with JF. You can either have him actually be telling the truth, or have his motivations be a little more sinister. Here's the options you can play with for JF. That is the conclusion of Chapter 3, and the characters will level up to 4. In the next video, I'll be detailing the other chapters in this module. If you enjoyed this episode and want to see the rest, be sure to subscribe for more, and to whoever's still watching, have a good one.